When it comes to assessing reading in student, one of the most important things, in my opinion, is early intervention, because the earlier you're able to help the student, the better off the student's going to be in the long run. So many students fall between the cracks, and they're able to go so long without anyone ever stopping or intervening, and that's really detrimental to the student and their future. So I actually had an example of that before the corona started. I was actually a fourth grade tutor at a school. I was their English reading, and towards the end, we had this one student come. He was from out of district, and this child could not read. Even very basic words, maybe, but anything from paperwork right in front of him, worksheets, whatever is on the board, he relied heavily on his peers around him, and he was so used to having them be able to help him that I'm assuming that that's the crutch, that he was able to use, that he was able to coast on by for so long without ever getting any type of intervention or resources given to him. And that was a huge eye-opener for me, because this student's almost in middle school, and he didn't even have so much as an IEP or anything to show that he had ever had any type of interventions or help with anything. And so I'm sure, he's not the only student like that. There's hundreds and hundreds of students who I'm sure are in the same boat as him, and that's why it's so important to be able to check early on, catch it, and work with them to help them get the proper resources that they need. So something else that I found in the book that I felt was important, especially for new emergent readers, is for the teacher to assume nothing. So they give an example of a teacher, and she's telling her students to open a book, look at the words in order. And by doing this, the teacher is already assuming that the students understand how to read an English book, right? If the teacher has no knowledge of the student's background, then, the students could be from China or somewhere else where they read books completely different than we do. So obviously we start from left to right, we start from the front of the cover, but other countries aren't like that. Other countries may read from right to left, they may start from the back of the book. And so those students are going to be lost because they do it opposite. So what the teacher could have done in that situation is, okay, this is the front of the book, we're opening it up, this is the first word, this is the second word, and then we're reading from left to right, and kind of coach the students in that way so that they're all on the same page and we all know where they're starting. But that's just one example, but I felt like that also goes for everything, because we shouldn't just assume that the student already has proper skills in order to be a proficient reader, but that's at any level. And that's why we start off with word lists to find out, okay, where's the students, what level are they on, where can we go from here, and this is where they're having strength, this is where they're having weaknesses. And that's also kind of where IRI comes into play, because as we know, IRI helps us to determine the students' reading instructional needs, as well as determining their strengths and weaknesses. And we know that it encompasses a lot of different things, but tying in the pillar of characters with that. So for phonemic awareness and phonics, this is where the word recognition inventory helps to assess the student's vocabulary level. And the lists go from kinder all the way to about 9th grade. And so that's why we start 2 levels below where the grade that the student's in, because we want to find where their independent level is, and then we can find their instructional and then their frustrational. But we have to start at the bottom to work our way up, so that's why there's so many of those. For fluency, we're looking at how accurately and efficiently that the student is able to read. And we're making sure that it's not too fast and it's not too slow. We're also making sure that they're reading appropriately. And by that, I mean, if the sentence is, the dog jumped over the cow, we want to make sure that the student's not reading, the dog jumped over the cow. But we also want to make sure that the student's not, the dog jumped over the cow. We want to make sure that they're reading appropriately, the dog jumped over the cow. And so that's what we're assessing with fluency. For vocab, it's the decoding unfamiliar words and being able to figure them out. And then for comprehension is where we're asking questions, whether that's inferential or literal. After having students read passages, this is what's going to help the students with comprehension, because they're able to think about it, and then they're able to think about the question and then think about the story and be able to relate and pull things from the story to use in their answer.